The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. Chapter 1. Is it the Ghost? It was evening at the opera. The managers Debienne and Poligny were giving their last show before they stopped work. Suddenly, young dancers came into Sorelli's room after their dance. They were afraid and some laughed. Others cried. Sorelli was angry because she wanted to be alone to practice her speech for the managers. Little Jams, the girl with the small nose, blue eyes and red face, said, "It's the ghost!" And she closed the door. Sorelli believed in bad things. She was afraid when Little Jams talked about the ghost, but she asked for details.
"Did you see him?" "Yes, as clearly as I see you now,"
said Little Jams. Her legs were weak, and she sat on a chair.
Then Little Geary, the girl with black eyes and black hair, said,
"If that's the ghost, he's very ugly."
"Oh, yes,"
cried all the young dancers. They all began to talk together. The ghost appeared to them like a gentleman in good clothes. He suddenly stood before them in the passage. They didn't know where he came from. He seemed to come through the wall.
"You see this ghost everywhere,"
said one girl who was not so afraid. And it was true. For months, people at the opera talked only about this ghost in good clothes who walked around the building like a shadow. He spoke to nobody, nobody spoke to him, and he disappeared when people saw him. As a real ghost, he made no sound when walking. People first laughed about this ghost dressed like a rich person, but the story grew big among the young dancers. All the girls said they met this strange man often. When something bad happened, someone fell or lost something, it was the fault of this man. After all, who had seen him? You meet many men in good clothes at the opera who are not strange, but this man's clothes covered a skeleton, and he had a dead man's head. Was this serious? The idea of the skeleton came from Joseph Bouquet, the chief worker, who really saw the ghost. He saw him on the small stairs by the lights. He saw him for a second and told everyone who wanted to listen. He is very thin, and his coat hangs on skeleton bones. His eyes are so deep that you can hardly see them. You just see two big black holes, like in a dead man's head. His skin is not white, but a yellow color. His nose is so small, you can't see it from the side. This chief worker was a serious, quiet, good man, slow at imagining things. His words were received with interest and surprise. Soon there were other people who said they too had met a man in good clothes with a dead man's head. Some men who heard the story first said that Joseph Bouquet was the victim of a joke by his workers. But then, one after another, there came strange things that made even the most intelligent people feel worried. For example, a fireman is a brave man. Well, this fireman, who went to check the cellars under the opera, suddenly reappeared on the stage, white, afraid, with his eyes big, and almost fell into the arms of Little Jam's mother. And why? Because he had seen coming toward him a head of fire, but without a body. All the young dancers were very afraid. At first, this firehead was different from Joseph Bouquet's description of the ghost. But the girls soon believed that the man had several heads, which he changed as he wanted. And, of course, they immediately thought that they were in great danger. Sorelli herself, the day after the fireman's adventure, put a horseshoe on the table near the door. Everyone who entered the opera had to touch it before going up the stairs. "It's the ghost!" Little Jams had cried that evening at the opera.
"Listen!"
Everybody seemed to hear a soft sound outside the door. There was no sound of feet. Then it stopped. Sorelli tried to show more courage than the others. She went to the door and, very afraid, asked, "Who's there?" But nobody answered. Then, feeling all eyes on her, she made an effort to show courage and said very loudly,
"Is there anyone behind the door?"
"Oh, yes, yes, of course there is," cried little Meg Geary. "Don't open the door! Oh, please, don't open the door!" But Sorelli opened the door, while the young dancers moved back, and Meg Geary cried, "Mother! Mother!" Sorelli looked into the passage bravely. It was empty, and she closed the door again with a deep breath.
"No," she said, "there is no one there."
"Still, we saw him," Jam said. "He must be somewhere around. I won't go back to change. We should all go down together, at once." and we will come up again together. Come, children, be strong. I think no one has ever seen this ghost, said Sorelli. Yes, we saw him. We saw him just now, cried the girls. He had his dead man's head and his good clothes, just as when he appeared to Joseph Bouquet. And Gabriel saw him too, said Jams. Only yesterday afternoon. Gabriel, the music teacher? Yes, didn't you know? And he was wearing his good clothes in the afternoon. Yes, Gabriel told me so himself. Gabriel was in the manager's office. Suddenly, the door opened and the Persian entered. You know the Persian brings bad luck. Oh, yes, answered the little dancers together, making signs against bad luck with their fingers. And you know how much Gabriel believes in bad luck, said Jams. However, he is always polite. When he meets the Persian, he just puts his hand in his pocket and touches his keys. Well, the moment the Persian appeared at the door, Gabriel ran out of the office like a crazy man and fell down the stairs. Mother and I saw him. We helped him. He was hurt and had blood on his face. Then he told us why he was afraid. He had seen the strange man behind the Persian, the man with the dead man's head, like Joseph Bouquet said. Jams had told her story very quickly. A silence followed that was broken by little Geary, who said, Joseph Bouquet should stop talking. Why should he stop talking? Asked somebody. That's Mother's opinion, said Meg, speaking quietly and looking all around as though afraid that other ears might hear. And why is it your mother's opinion? Quiet. Mother says the ghost doesn't like being talked about. And why does your mother say so? Because nothing. This made the young women very curious, and they crowded around little Geary, asking her to explain. I promised not to tell, said Meg. But the girls did not stop asking. They said they would not tell anyone. Finally, Meg, who wanted to tell everything anyway, looked at the door and said, Well, it's because of the private box. What private box? The ghost's box. Does the ghost have a box? Oh, do tell us. Do tell us. Not so loud, said Meg. It's box 5, you know. The box next to the stage, on the left. Oh, that's not true? I tell you it is. Mother takes care of it. But you promise you won't say a word? Of course. Well, that's the ghost's box, and orders have been given that it must never be sold. And does the ghost really come there? Yes. The little dancers looked at each other. If the ghost came to the box, he must be seen, because he wore good clothes and a dead man's head. This was what they tried to make Meg understand, but she said, That's just it. The ghost is not seen, and he has no good clothes and no head. All that talk about his dead man's head and his head of fire is not true. There's nothing in it. You only hear him when he is in the box. Mother has never seen him, but she has heard him. Mother knows because she gives him his program, Sorelli said. Geary, child, you're lying to us. Then little Geary began to cry. I should have kept quiet. But I was quite right. Joseph Bouquet had no business to talk of things that don't concern him. It will bring him bad luck. Mother was saying so last night. There was a sound of quick and heavy steps in the passage, and a voice cried, Cecile! Cecile! Are you there? It's Mother's voice, said Jams. What's the matter? She opened the door. A woman came into the room and sat down on a chair. How terrible, she said. How terrible! What? What? Joseph Bouquet. What about him? Joseph Bouquet is dead. The room became filled with cries and requests for explanations. Yes, he was found hanging in the 3rd floor cellar. It's the ghost, little Geary said, but she at once corrected herself, with her hands pressed to her mouth. No, I didn't say it. All around her, her friends repeated quietly. Yes, it must be the ghost. Sorelli was very white. I will never be able to say my speech, she said. The truth is that no one ever knew how Joseph Bouquet died. People just said that it was natural suicide. In his book, Monsieur Moncharmin, one of the managers who came after Monsieur Debierne and Poligny, describes what happened. I was in the manager's office when Mercier, the acting manager, suddenly came running in. He seemed a bit crazy and told me that the body of a worker had been found hanging in the third cellar under the stage. By the time I had run down the stairs, the man was no longer hanging from his rope. But Monsieur Moncharmin found a very simple explanation. It was just after the dance, and the dancers divided the suicide's rope among themselves to protect themselves against the evil eye. There you are! Picture the young dancers running down and dividing the suicide's rope among themselves in less time than it takes to write. Now, time will tell if somebody was interested in seeing that the rope disappeared after it had done its work. The horrible news soon spread all over the opera, where Joseph Bouquet was very popular. The frightened dancers and Sorelli made for the main room through the dark passages and stairs, running as fast as their little pink legs could carry them.